Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're tackling something massive. We are diving deep into the incredibly complex personal life of Michael Jackson. For decades, it feels like tabloid headlines completely dominated the conversation around him, right? But today, we're systematically addressing the public myths, looking at why the media lied, and uncovering the reality by using his own words and the first-hand accounts of the people who actually knew him best.
So here is our roadmap. We'll start with the visionary and the myths, then cover the truth about his skin, the Peter Pan complex, addressing the bed sharing, the isolated superstar, and finally, behind the media caricature.
All right, Section 1, the visionary and the myths, beyond the assembly line.
Before we even touch the controversies, we really have to understand his artistic intent. In a 1999 MTV interview, Jackson made his ethos perfectly clear, saying, "I don't want to be just another can in the assembly line." His entire goal was constant, groundbreaking innovation. And I mean, this drive literally broke racial barriers on television. He became one of the first black artists to get heavy rotation on MTV with Billie Jean. But of course, that unprecedented level of fame and perfectionism also brought a completely suffocating level of media scrutiny.
His global influence was just absolutely massive. To put this into perspective, right after the September 11th attacks, Jackson gathered leading artists to record a charity single. The explicit goal? To raise $50 million for the victims' families. He even threw in a brand new Bentley to be auctioned off for the cause. Yet, despite this monumental philanthropy, the media often just looked the other way, clearly preferring sensationalism over his actual humanitarian efforts.
Moving on to Section 2. The truth about his skin, fiction versus biology. So why did his skin color actually change? For years, the prevailing tabloid narrative was that Michael Jackson was purposefully bleaching his skin because he rejected his heritage and wanted to be white. It was a story that caused incredible public backlash. But when he was finally confronted with this, what did Michael himself actually have to say?
In a remarkably candid interview, he hit back at those horrifying rumors. When asked about wanting a white child to play him in a commercial, he straight up called it stupid. He stated definitively, "I am a proud black American." He explained that he suffered from vitiligo, which is a genetic disorder that destroys skin pigmentation. He wasn't bleaching his skin to change his race at all. He was using makeup to even out the severe blotching that started after the Thriller era.
And he brought up a pretty fascinating double standard. He asked, what about all the millions of people who sit out in the sun to become darker? Nobody says nothing about that. He expressed this really profound sadness that an unavoidable medical condition had completely overshadowed his art. He just wanted people to care about the anatomy of his craftsmanship, not dissect his biology.
Okay, Section 3, the Peter Pan complex, a stolen childhood.
To really understand the man, we have to look back at his youth. He was raised in a working-class environment in Gary, Indiana, where his large family shared single bedrooms just out of pure necessity. Combine that living situation with a childhood that was totally swallowed by grueling rehearsals, plus a father who routinely subjected him to harsh physical insults, like calling him Big Nose, and Jackson was effectively denied a normal upbringing. Because of this, he deeply idolized Peter Pan. He obsessed over the idea of a boy who never had to grow up.
This whole dynamic led to what many observers call his Peter Pan complex. But it wasn't just about reclaiming toys or building amusement parks. Observers and defenders point out a crucial psychological factor. Children, unlike almost every single adult in Michael's life, initially wanted absolutely nothing from him financially. They didn't want a record deal. They didn't want a loan. This lack of agenda created a safe haven for a man who felt constantly used by the adult world.
Which brings us to Section 4, addressing the bed sharing, the most controversial choice.
We have to impartially look at his most controversial personal choice, the one that forever altered his legacy. During a very famous interview, he was asked flat out, is it appropriate for a 44-year-old man to share a bedroom with a child? Jackson's defense highlighted a massive, massive disconnect between public perception and his own stated intentions.
He vehemently denied any sexual or predatory intent. His exact words were, "Why should I be Jack the Ripper in the room? This is a guy trying to help heal a child." He insisted these sleepovers just involved putting the fireplace on, giving the kids hot milk, and reading storybooks. He claimed he gave the children his massive bed while he slept down on the floor in a sleeping bag. To him, providing warmth and a magical environment to kids who had suffered was an act of pure love. He expressed absolute shock and devastation when the 1993 allegations hit.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the great divide of his life. Where the public and media saw a deeply worrying scenario with huge potential for abuse, Jackson and his defenders claimed it was completely innocent behavior. They argued it all stemmed from his own background of sharing a single room in a crowded house, combined with his desperate need to give other kids the magical, loving childhood that he was personally denied.
Section 5. The Isolated Superstar, Blackmail and Disconnect.
Beyond the allegations themselves, his immense wealth literally turned him into a walking target. Those close to him argue that his extreme generosity actually made him a mark. They allege a distinct pattern. Jackson would freely pay people's bills, but the second those associates, or the parents of the children he helped, ran into financial trouble and the money stopped flowing, accusations and blackmail would suddenly begin. He was surrounded by people who solely valued him as an ATM.
This constant financial exploitation forced him into an incredibly tight bubble, which led to a profound disconnect, even from his own family. Get this, a bodyguard recounted a time they were driving in New York and passed a massive billboard for a Tyler Perry movie starring his sister, Janet. Michael looked at it and genuinely asked, "Is she in a play?" He was remarkably clueless about his own sister's major film career. It just goes to show how deeply isolated he was from his own siblings.
And that leads us to Section 6, Behind the Media Caricature, the red wine moments.
Living in that constant state of isolation took a heavy emotional toll. His bodyguard revealed that, away from the flashing cameras, Michael had what they called red wine moments. He would request a bottle of light red wine, and about 45 minutes later he'd call his security detail on the phone just to vent. He would cry out loudly, asking, "Why can't people just leave me alone? I just want to live with my kids and have a normal life." It was a desperate plea from a guy trapped inside a gilded cage with literally no one to talk to but his own employees.
We also have to remember the media landscape he was forced to navigate back then. It was an industry totally focused on spectacle over truth. For example, during his 30th anniversary special, Whitney Houston appeared shockingly thin. The media solution? Producers literally used a digital enhancement process to add pounds to her frame for the television broadcast. This was the world Michael lived in, a world that readily altered physical reality to protect an image, which just further blurred the line between what was actually real and what was manufactured.
So what does all of this mean? When we strip away the tabloid headlines and the digital enhancements and look at his life strictly through the lens of those who were actually there, and his own explanations, a very different picture emerges. We don't find a simple, clear-cut villain, and we definitely don't find a flawless saint. We find a deeply complex, painfully isolated individual who is desperately trying to rewrite his own traumatic past.
Ultimately, the story of Michael Jackson is a masterclass in how public myths are manufactured and how a person's reality can be entirely consumed by their own fame. So, the next time a sensational story completely dominates your newsfeed, ask yourself, are you seeing the truth or are you just seeing the caricature the media wants you to see? Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.